Hello, beautiful friends. Today we have Diana Sampson with us. Welcome, Diana.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, it's so great to have you here. I've known Diana for quite a few years now, on and off through our local community, and she's another very magical being. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and to see what magic wants to come through. Diana describes herself as a ceremonial yoga priestess, here to guide you back to a deep connection with nature. And you run your own Lunar Rhythms yoga.
I do. I founded Lunar Rhythms Yoga in 2007. After I trained with the British Wheel of Yoga in 2006. And when you come out of a training, it's very much like you're parroting your teacher, and you have to do that for a bit because you're finding yourself, you're finding a foundation. But after a year, I kind of was like, right, who am I? What am I doing? What's my message? What's my style? And I was kind of thinking, like, in the training, we were like studying the ancient traditions of the Indian yogis, 5,000 years ago. And it made me think, like, what was happening here, in our land 5,000 years ago or so, at the same sort of time. And so I came across a Norse Coven here in the UK, and I joined the Norse Coven and started to it's a Viking traditions celebrating the Sabbats and the seasonal changes of nature and the cycles of the moon and the magic, ways to use magic with using nature as our greatest teacher, and this really like touched something within me. And it also, like, I felt like the real similarities between the two traditions, the Indian and the Norse, coming from the same times. There was very much like they were similar. And I felt like there was a way that I could weave the two together to create Lunar Rhythms Yoga, basically. So 2007, I birthed Lunar Rhythms Yoga, and I started to work with the cycles and the seasons. So using nature as my guide as to how to lead and teach, and so every time I teach, everyone's like, gosh, you've always got it right. You've always got it so right, always just perfect for how I feel today. And that's because we're aligning with the nature, and the energies on that day. And so it worked really well. Like, that's how Lunar Rhythms Yoga began.
I love that. And so bringing in what's really alive in the moment, and working with what's alive in the moment brings us straight in, doesn't it? That's really wonderful.
It does. And like, being aligned with nature and its natural rhythms naturally brings you to balance. So you're not pushing against the unseen energies that are there, and you're wondering why you feel certain like this. When the moon is in different positions, it goes through the sky, it crosses every 2 to 3 days the different signs of the zodiac, and those different positions affect the different areas of the body. So for example, on an Aries moon, it's the head, and so often people are getting headaches on an Aries moon. They'll come to class, I've got a really bad headache, and it's because it's the different effects that are coming through. We can get really fiery and impatient and like angry on Aries moons, and when you have this knowledge, it's really useful. You can work with that understanding so that you can think, right, I'm going to be a bit cooling today. I'm going to, create some headspace. So I'm not going to fire up at people, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's really useful. Nature has always been like the best teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And we live in a time, don't we, where it's just straight, like, keep going. We don't have cycles in our culture, really. There aren't really, apart from Christmas and Easter, you're allowed to have a day off work. It's like, it's just keep going all the time. So anything that helps to support people to come back into that connection with what is truly unfolding in the moment. That's
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, being an entrepreneur, like we run our own businesses and things, it's also so useful, like to know the wheel of the year, and to know when's a good time to launch a business, when's a good time to launch a product, when's the best time to kind of actually sit back and just, you know, just chill a bit. You know, you don't need to be doing something, or just marinate a little bit, because if we're constantly at it, it's like overwhelm. So I use the seasons as well as throughout the wheel of the year to program when I'm going to be doing certain things within my business life. So again, nature has just, I like, and then you get this deep connection, because it's just helping you in every area of your life, you know, and you're so connected to it. And, you know, that's the message I want to get out, that if we can get that connection back, you know, then we're going to start making those decisions that benefit the future generations. You know, if everyone was that connected to nature, and working with it in a seasonal cyclical way. And it is, I do feel that it's more and more coming in, but it needs to get more mainstream, you know, get it out mainstream. So this is the vision for me, is to just, you know, get that out. And launching the Lunar Rhythms yoga teacher training package now, because I'm ready to give this Lunar Rhythms yoga over to others. You know, it's not mine, it's like bigger than me. So I want other people to take it, use it, because it's such a useful way to teach a yoga class. It's really simple. I like simplicity, don't like to overcomplicate things. And it's just a real guide into, you know, the rhythms, how to use them on each particular day. And yeah, I'd love people to take it, because it's definitely changed my life. You know, it's my life and helped me in so many ways, and
Can
helps
you,
my clients.
yeah, can you name some of those ways that you've witnessed like shift in your life? What's really changed for you by connecting in with nature in that way?
It's just like, I don't, it's like no matter what's going on, because of course things happen in my life. I can't just say, oh, my life's just been really easy since 2007. It's not, it's been shit.
No, right, let's be real about everything, right?
It's amazing, you know, but I've had some real hard slogs at periods. I'm in like, for the first time in a long time, I'm in like this peaceful, like feeling amazing. There's no dramas going on, you know, there's nothing challenging for me. And it's like, wow, I feel like I really deserve this. Like, it's like I've worked for this bit, you know. But along the way, as those challenges came, there was always the moon in the sky. There was always looking up, and I know exactly where it is all the time. And it's just like this connection to the nature to brought me home to who I truly am. So no matter what was going on, even if I was heartbroken in the day, it wasn't last order. I could always see the beauty as well. You know, I can always see the light. I can always see the nature, you know. And so it never like on the floor for days on end, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't help but wonder, when we begin to unplug from the sort of straightforward way of doing things that we've been taught into a more cyclical way and a more natural way, that all the places in our lives where we haven't been living like that, they all come up and they all have to shift and they all have to change. So I think we do have to go through quite a difficult process to realign as well with the earth. I don't
Yeah, definitely. I think another way that like living a cyclical seasonal life for myself is this tapping into a much more graceful part of my being, that maybe that's with age as well, I don't know, but I feel much more graceful, much more like in tune with a beauty within me that has come from living more of a natural life, you know. And it's like, I don't know, that's that, as I've progressed along the way, that is what's come out. And I know that people who've known me for a while say, wow, we've seen how you've transformed over these few years, you know. And that's as part of the work, you know. It brings about transformation, it brings out that innate beauty that's within the earth, within the cycles, it's within each us, is allowed to then come out, because you're not burning yourself out, you know. Burnout is destructive You're learning how to pace. You're learning how to be in the active kind of warrior masculine energy, and then you're learning how to be in the soft feminine receptive energy. As the moon waxes, we're strengthening, as the moon is waning, we're softening, we're surrendering. You go into the dark of the moon and it's like the death, empty, nothing, and the full moon is celebrate, and I love that, because it's like for thousands of years we've celebrated, and so there's something ancient in these practices, and then we're bringing in something modern with it. We don't want to be like, I think it's always got to be progressive. We don't want to be steeped in lineages that are stuck in ways. They want to be rooted in the old traditions, but at the same time evolving and growing. And
I so agree with that. And so what was it that drew you to the Norse specifically, do you think? What was it within the Norse lineage?
Synchronicity. It's like, I've always, that's what we talk about, the magic,
Yeah.
Like synchronicity is rife when you open to nature, when you open to your own nature, because then you allow that magic to flow through you. And so like a lot of people here, synchronistic events happen at the right times, and I put it out like I wanna, who am I? I was asking, I was really sincere. I've been working in training and now I was teaching, and I needed to find I wanted to just open myself to my true nature, really, like who am I as a teacher. And this just, oh yeah, I was working in the Yoga Life studio in Eastbourne, and the class had finished and everyone left, and I was just tidying up, and in comes this quite old man, and he had not many teeth, and he smelt a bit funny, and all the ladies that were leaving were a bit like, ooh, and like leaving, but I was like, okay, well, he's come in, and he introduced himself as Merlin. Can you believe it?
I really
Coming to the Yoga Life studio. And he sits down, and he looks at my hands, and he starts telling me everything about me. Like, he just like psychically was like, I was blown away by what he was reading from my hands, and what he was reading about my body and my life, and it was spot on. So of course I was like hooked in, and it was at a point in my life where I was challenged on some levels, and looking for something to, I don't know, something to come into my life. And so Merlin came in, and can you believe it? It was just like,
love it.
And Merlin led me to the Norse Coven.
Wow. And so I'm intrigued by what, I don't know, like what the core, not the core teachings, but not quite sure how I want to word my question. There's something around ritual and ceremony that I feel wants to be mentioned, and I guess, yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, go. Were you going to?
Well, I think I was in that Norse Coven for 13 years, and we're no longer practicing together anymore. But 13 years is a really good time. And from that experience, I really learned how to do ceremony and ritual within that. Broomsticks and chalices, and we would get together and make incense and headdresses, and make Bridget crosses, and do all of that beautiful crafty stuff together. We would go on little adventures to Glastonbury, and just to beautiful woods, and stone circles, and they were like a family to me. And I do miss it. But I am so grateful for it, because it means that now, like, ritual and ceremony is just a natural part of my life. To start with, it was like I couldn't remember. It took a while to kind of understand it all. You know, I was kind of there, but kind of it wasn't. I felt like I could never remember. Every time we did a ceremony, I'd go there and I couldn't remember how to do anything, you know, and it took a while for it to sort of come in naturally. And now it's in there, and that will never leave. And that's been a huge blessing for me. And now I take that into the yoga work. So within the Lunar Rhythms Yoga teacher training, we learn ceremony, and we learn that connection to nature through ceremonial rituals. And the beautiful thing about this Norse Coven, and I think Norse in general, there's not a seriousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like high, like really serious, and like it's kind of there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of joy, and a lot of joking within the ceremonies. Not joking, but it's fun, you know. It's not over serious, and I like also that we able to keep them. Well, what I bring is a simplicity, because I want everybody to do it, because if it's simple, it's much easier for people to get. And so as I train my lot, I show them the simple. You don't even need anything for a ceremony. You know, so you don't need anything. You don't have to have anything. But it's also fun to get dressed up.
Can you just
have
all the fun bits as well. And so can you sort of describe what ceremony means to you then? Like what is it? Why would you use it?
Ceremony is sacred, first of all, but definitely sacredness takes us deeper. It takes us deeper into the real stuff of life. That's the first thing, and I get goosebumps as I say that. You know, it's like it focuses you to the real stuff of life, I guess. Under the surface, you know, under the surface where we're all bizzling around most of the time, there's something deeper. There's a stillness. There's the beauty, the grace, the divinity.
The magic.
Magic. The magic's there. You know, that connection. You cannot have that connection without that stopping. And ceremony focuses the intention, focuses you into, say, for example, with having a ceremony for Lammas, which is coming up, you know, because then it's like, oh, Lammas is coming up, and it's a harvest. Oh, what am I harvesting? What do I need to chop out of my life? What's the first harvest? Is going to do a little pruning of some things here, you know, and getting all this kind of like, you can be out in the garden pruning, but you're also pruning away some of the dead wood that you don't need in your own life. And it's just so magical the way it all works, you know, and it fascinates me. I also like the fact that in these traditions, they're earth-based, you're out in nature. So you're not sitting around in a building. You've actually got your feet on the earth. You've got a fire burning. You're outside, all weathers, unless it's obviously pissing it down. You're outside, you're out there in the winter freezing, your feet are numb, but you're still there. And it's like, do a 20-minute ceremony, but that's what I love. It's like this deep connection to the earth, and sort of seeing it, those seasons, and changing and celebrating them all. And, you know, so it means for me, like, of course, the daily grind of life, the politics, the Brexits, all of that stuff, it rumbles along and it's there. And some people choose to engage in it and some people don't. I personally, it's not my job to engage in it. For me, my job is here to bring people to a connection with nature so that they can, maybe it's about grounding the energy, holding the space for us to evolve.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that is what it's about, isn't it? It's really about connecting to what's really true underneath all of that surface stuff. And it's so beautiful that you're bringing that forward in ways that that is accessible. And I like the way you spoke about simplicity as well, making it simple and fun and not too serious. If I'm in a serious ceremony, this really naughty little pixie wants to come out of me sometimes, not always. If people are getting too serious, I get a little bit naughty. That's when I feel sort of pixie fae energy around as well.
Yeah.
because
Yes, absolutely. And it's rife right now, isn't it? Midsummer, you know, like
mhm,
fairies, it's like real time for celebrating them.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so I don't know, you know, with the fae and fairies, like that was definitely part of the Norse traditions, was they were definitely celebrated. And I was sort of telling you earlier, like within my Norse Coven, I was much more the lunar aspect expert. And then there was another lady called Sheila. She was a real amazing, very funny witch. And she was a real kind of witch, you know. She had broomsticks everywhere, skulls. And but anyway, she knew a lot about the fae, and she would tell great stories and old myths and legends. But with me, for example, I respect them. You know, when you're in the woods, sometimes you sort of see like there's almost like a doorway or something into another realm, and you can feel it and you can sense it. And I think being part of the Norse, that kind of connection to the woods and the green men and the kind of elemental stuff
Yeah.
has been, it's really magical.
Yeah.
But
And we don't need to necessarily be seeing them and having direct experiences with them to know that they're there, and to have that, like, that respect and you know, just the feel. I think there's a feeling, um like you're saying, you can just feel these places in the woods and in nature and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
I feel like I think they're going to be seen. I think they've already, like, um, we were on a call with a real amazing one of my teachers, and it actually, this elemental, it looked like a fairy, like literally you could see it. So we've been replaying it on the thing, and it's like you can see it
Yeah.
looks like a fairy. So whether they're, who knows, but I feel like as we are lightening up, even though it feels like we're going backwards in some ways, but we're not, we are progressing. We're much lighter than we've ever been, I feel. I think these things are, have you seen them in the woods?
um Not with my physical, I haven't seen them with my physical eyes. I know some people have. For me, it's always an internal experience. In fact, I was reading an article a couple of days ago about a woman who had seen some running up and down a tree in Somerset, and I was contemplating this whole thing of like seeing them in the flesh, or just seeing them internally. Yeah, not yet. I see flickers of light around my home sometimes. Well, I used to when I had a home, a solid base, but and that would also, they would feel very real. Like I could feel and sense them, but yeah, but not like properly. I've not properly seen them, and I think many of us have. Like we feel them and we don't necessarily know it's them as well, because we haven't been taught about it. So it's kind of part of why I like to do these interviews as well, is just to share the different experiences people are having with nature. And yeah, it's really nice to hear what you were saying about like when you go into the woods as well and how you experience it. um yeah, I don't know if you can speak about that anymore, like, you know, what happens to you when you're in nature, maybe through having done ceremonies, or just your experience now, like knowing that there's more to life.
Well, I think it's always changing. It's always different. But what always is there underpinning it is, again, it's connection, isn't it? It's
Mm-hmm.
the returning home to our true nature,
Yeah.
which always happens when we're in nature. And so it makes sense that nature teaches us, that we return back to that way of living where nature is the guide, and we don't. It's kind of like we've disregarded it so much and pillaged it and built and not given it a moment's thought, when actually nature is our greatest teacher of all. And so I think if anything, if anything that needs to change, like at a deep level, it's to get people to remember that. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it is happening, and a lot of stuff is changing, but on the mainstream level,
Mm.
Please, how do we get people back to that? Because I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's happening. I think
I
patience.
think it's happening as well, and I think it's little things like this. We just keep speaking about it, and we keep sharing about it, and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and then it ripples out. I think yeah, when people realize that there's so much healing in nature as well. I mean, it is becoming more mainstream now. I think, like, doctors are prescribing people go out into the woods or take time in nature instead of antidepressants. I don't know how much that's really happening, but I think there is. And there's forest schools now for children, so I think there is a little shift. But
yeah.
yeah, and people like you doing work that support other people to connect into nature
The
in
thing
these different
and
ways.
is that when you get into nature is how humble. There's a
Mm.
humbleness. It's like this. It's just so immense. It's just so magical. It's so unbelievable what has come out. And it's always that. It's nice to feel humble as well. Like I bow. I bow to this divinity or something, that's just beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. It really is humbling, isn't it? Like, you can't there's no place for the ego to be all big and fluffed up when you're in nature. It just, it's just, yeah, there's such a softening that happens in there.
I think environment has such a huge part to play on our well-being, and
Yeah.
I've moved recently, and I've moved into a place up on top of it. I've never had an elevated view, and I see trees and the sea and a big, vast blue expanse of sky, and it's a huge difference to where I lived before. But the effects mentally as well, emotionally, like clarity, clearness. I know we don't always have the tools to just up and move, but it does just go to show how important environment is, and how we've forgotten again that forgetting of the environment isn't important. So yeah, thank you for doing these videos, and it's, again, like you said, it really is important work that you're doing, is like getting this remembrance of who we are back
Yeah,
up.
and it is about who we are, isn't it? We are part of all of this.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think what I really love about what you're speaking about with the yoga as well is that it's accessible wherever you are to connect to the cycles. Like, you don't have to be in nature, like you can be living in town and connect with the cycle of the moon and connect to the cycle of the seasons and watch the changing plants, and it's all it can be done anywhere.
yeah, absolutely. And the fact it's like a lot of people's depressions and upsetness comes from disconnect or not belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And what this is a sense of belonging, because suddenly you belong to the earth, you're at one with
Yeah.
the earth,
Oh, I
and that
love that. I love that.
yeah, that is healing. That's so healing, because we can all feel so isolated in our places and not connected, or even though we do have friends, we sometimes feel we don't. And that connection is such a beautiful thing, and to have those connections to the fairies and the elementals and the gods and the goddesses and these beautiful beings that remind us of those qualities of strength that we need at times, or love or compassion, or I don't know, fairy energy, whatever.
And that is what they do, isn't it? That's been my experience in nature, is that they reflect back to me who I truly am, and
Yeah,
what
exactly.
I need, and that blows me away. Like, and I think so often people are looking for an external God, and they're searching for God, and they're just like, just look outside. It's like
Yeah,
nature. If you just go and connect with nature, then your connection to divinity is right there. I mean, it's right in here as well, but it is speaking to us all the time in all of these different
yes,
ways. Yeah.
yeah. And really, the gods and goddesses of the Indian traditions and the Norse or the Celtic, it's similar. They're just parts of nature as well. So it's like
Yeah.
they're reflecting back. It's not like we're revering a god or goddess. It's like, say, like Laxmi, for example. She brings, if you were revering her, she's got the qualities of grace, love, abundance, and actually she's reminding you that you are love, grace, and abundance. You know, the trees are reminding you that you are unshakably grounded, that you are deeply rooted, that no matter what's going on in life, you will not topple over. You know, we could go on with.
Yeah, go on, do some more. This is so true. This is so true. And for me, this is kind of the core of all of this, really, is that it reminds us, deeply who we are, and that we're deeply connected, and that we are, and we belong. And because we have to belong because we're here, and we're made of all the same stuff as the nature around us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm so grateful to the journey. I'm so pleased that I suffered so that I would open up to all the beauty that's around me, and that I had the courage to stretch through those challenging moments of life, because sometimes it's so easy to just kind of die back, and it's that stretching through those difficult moments and leaping with faith that has got me to where I am today, and will continue. You know, there's always going to be some stretching I'm going to have to do, and stretching, and I've grown to love the stretch.
That's great.
And
that's good for a yoga teacher too.
Nature has helped me cope with that. So thank you to the seasons and the cycles, because I feel like truly myself, whereas before I might not have been myself. I was not truly myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There was parts of me that were, and then parts of me that wasn't. And there was insecurities and not feeling I had to act a certain way to fit in. And I don't do that anymore. But
yay. Is there any are there any techniques or little short ceremonies or anything that you could suggest that somebody could do just to feel a little bit more connected?
Well, always, I think the first thing to do in everything is to have deep roots, because if the foundation isn't steady, then everything's out. So it's always the foundational stuff that counts at the very beginning. And so it's about feeling, I guess, on a practical level, those deep roots going down into the earth. And I always use a ruby red grounding cord for that, and I do it on a daily basis. But you know, you could have a roots of the tree, you could have any grounding cord you like, and I attach it just below my belly button. And if I'm sitting, and if I'm standing, there on my feet. And I'll do this outside as well, and if I can't get outside, I'll visualize it, and it just plug in. So I take it right down through the tailbone, and then it goes all the way down into the deep dark roots of the earth. And that simple grounding practice is the way I begin every yoga class. Nothing can begin until we've rooted into the earth. So that's a very simple thing to do. You know, it takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then from a deeper foundation, we've got more space to grow up. So we've got more space to see more clearly. The body has more space. And then it's breath. You know, breath. Like connecting to breath. And then once it's like roots, and then breathing, and the heart's open, and then it's like, right, where it, depending on the season, say the moon or where we're at. So we're waxing at the moment. It's like a week after the new moon right now, and that's like, this is like you've set your seeds at new moon, right? And you've been nurturing them and hopefully working with those actions that you need to do to get your intentions out into the world. Halfway between here and the full moon, sometimes this is the kind of crucial point, because you're either going to just flake and not do it, or you push through and you take action and you really go for it, and you see yourself at full moon having completed what it is that you wanted to get done. So again, this is quite a crucial moment. So really affirming your affirmations today for what you want to set your seeds for at new moon, to really go for it in the next week up until the full moon, because the energy's there for that to happen. And then at full moon, you can really celebrate yourself. And celebration at full moon is such a joyful thing to do, with a fire, and knowing that it's been done for thousands of years. And, you know, we often are berating ourselves what we're not doing, what we haven't done, or feeling guilty because we haven't done this and that. And it's actually, no, celebrate what you have done. And that's nice too. And it makes us feel good about ourselves. And everybody benefits, you know, by us growing and nurturing ourselves, our loved ones, our communities. And like I said, you know, 7 generations in front of us, that's what we want to look at. 7 generations into the future are benefiting by the choices that we're making now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Yeah, really wise. Oh, thank you, Diana. Oh, is there anything else you'd like to share before we complete?
No, I think that's good. It feels
yeah.
good.
Thank you so much for your time today, and I will share links to your Instagram and Facebook. And
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Talking with you as always. I feel this fairy sisterhood for sure.
Yeah. So much love to you, and so much love to all of you watching today. If you've enjoyed this interview, then please like and subscribe, and check out what else I've got on my channel. So much love to you. Thank you. Bye.